Players Club now. You're too smart to pay full price.
New members get 2 free nights in Las Vegas or Atlantic City when the club books their flights. Call toll-free 1-800-257-1257. There's no obligation.
This is CNN.
Live from the world's financial capital, New York City, this is Moneyline with Lou Dobbs.
Good evening. I'm Bill Hartley, sitting in for Lou Dobbs. The State of the Union may be troubled, but the state of the stock market is super. The Dow Industrials today surging to another record high. The Dow climbed 31.5 points on big gains by two blue-chip stocks, Disney and Procter & Gamble. Bond prices also rallied. The Treasury's 30-year bond rose 0.75 points. Traders link some of these gains to expectations that the president's economic recovery plan, to be unveiled tonight, will not push interest rates higher. Americans will hear that plan in 2 hours. This is the president's fourth State of the Union address, and Irv Chapman reports on promises from the past.
1989, an optimistic President Bush reports on the economy.
That a time of peace and prosperity is not the time to rest, but a time to press forward, a time to invest in the future.
The president urged budget restraint, a capital gains tax cut, and improving education. Since then, the budget deficit has doubled. Congress has refused to accept the capital gains cut, and education improvement is focused on nationwide testing rather than on an infusion of federal money. 1 year ago, the buildup of U.S. forces in the Persian Gulf dominated the State of the Union. But the president did remind Congress of his economic programs.
My budget again includes tax-free family savings accounts, penalty-free withdrawals from IRAs for first-time home buyers, and to increase jobs and growth, a reduced tax for long-term capital gains.
None of those proposals have yet been enacted. Mr. Bush also acknowledged then that economic growth had been, as he put it, temporarily interrupted. But 1 year later, the recession continues. Now the president is promising to change that.
What he wants to do is put some camouflage out there that's political from middle America, like, this is what we're doing for you. But it's really not aimed so much at the economy as it is at a political facade of telling middle America that we've got programs for you.
The president, on whose watch the Cold War ended and Iraq's army was defeated, is under pressure to deliver the same performance at home, to put the jobless back to work and provide health care for all Americans. Irv Chapman, CNN Business News, Washington.
CNN has learned some details of the president's economic recovery plan. The most important to investors, the president will propose slashing the capital gains tax rate to 15% from the current maximum rate of 28%. Katie Pilgrim reports on what else to expect in the economic growth plan.
For weeks, President Bush has been hyping his State of the Union address and holding off reporters.
You have 6 days to wait for answers to all those questions, so I'm not going to now start taking specifics on the State of the Union.
The waiting comes to an end tonight when the president unveils his blueprint to get the U.S. economy out of recession. He's got a tough job ahead of him. Unemployment rose to 7.1% in December. New housing construction is at its lowest level since World War II, and consumers aren't spending.
What the president has to say is, I've got a plan, I've got a program. I'm taking us in a direction that will turn this economy around. President Bush's economic proposals are expected to include an increase in the personal tax exemption for families, as much as $1,000 per child, a $5,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers, and a capital gains tax cut. The president is expected to propose a $50 billion cut in defense over the next 5 years and a 90-day ban on new federal regulations.
There's a lot riding on this speech. One even wonders whether there isn't too much riding on the speech and whether the president is going to be capable of delivering the kind of performance for which expectations have been built up so high.
Although the president has not officially declared his candidacy, his State of the Union speech will lay the groundwork for his re-election bid. Since Americans often vote with their pocketbooks, Mr. Bush has to overcome his delay in recognizing the recession and convince voters he can put the economy back on track. Kitty Pilgrim, CNN Business News, New York.
There can be no recovery without consumers, and they are less confident about the economy right now. Consumer confidence fell in January to the lowest level in almost 12 years as more people worry about their jobs. Jobless Americans may soon get more help, though. A House committee today passed a bill extending jobless benefits for another 13 weeks. That's on top of the 20-week extension approved by Congress and the President in November. Westinghouse is expected to pull the plug on all or part of its dividend when the company's board meets tomorrow in Pittsburgh. Terry Keenan reports that analysts hope the move signals leaner times at the electric company.
You can be sure if it's Westinghouse. Since World War II, that slogan has meant as much to Westinghouse shareholders as it has to consumers. But not anymore. In 1991, Westinghouse paid out $470 million in dividends, a year when the company lost more than $1 billion. With the stock yielding almost 8%, analysts say the Westinghouse board has plenty of room to cut the company's payout. The first time that's happened in more than 40 years.
I think a lot of people at this point in time expect them to cut the dividend, myself included. I think there's two reasons for a dividend cut. One of them, the company needs the cash.
Last year, Westinghouse had to write off almost $3 billion in bad investments, running the gamut from junk bonds to shopping malls. Although the worst may be over, the company's finance unit still has commitments that could force it to lend even more real estate money in the future. In addition to a dividend cut, Westinghouse will likely shore up its balance sheet with an issue of preferred stock this spring. Whether more drastic measures will be needed will depend on just how quickly the economy recovers. Terry Keenan, CNN Business News, New York.
Coming up on Moneyline, I'll be talking about the economy, the budget, and what the president can do about them with Ronald Reagan's White House Budget Director, James Miller.
One of the cleanest sources of electricity we have. A source that doesn't burn anything and so doesn't pollute the air. A source that emits no greenhouse gases and helps preserve our natural resources is nuclear energy.
Where do you want to be in 30 years?
Well, you know, we Cranfords are a feisty lot. My mother just celebrated her 97th birthday. I'm going on a photographic safari to Kenya. I want my grandchildren to see where I grew up. And I never miss bridge with the girls. I believe if you rest, you rust. So let's just make sure that my money keeps up with me.
You can get there from here with Shearson Lehman Brothers. Car and Driver magazine declared its road manners are in the import vein, but comfort is better. And if you're wondering what else they have to say about the new Oldsmobile 88 Royale, call 1-800-332-OLDS. We'll send you their complete test drive evaluation on videocassette, free. Because when Car and Driver says the new 88 has hit the elusive style mark, it deserves more of your time than we can give it here. Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering.
The president gives his State of the Union address in less than 2 hours. My guest tonight says the president must grab back the political agenda and convince the American people he has a credible plan for economic recovery. My guest is James Miller, White House Budget Director in the Reagan administration. Jim, welcome back to Moneyline. Why is this so crucial to the president, this particular speech? And if it's this crucial, can he deliver?
Well, I think it is crucial to him. He's entitled to say the state of the world is quite good. He's got to admit, however, the state of the economy, the state of the nation is not good. And that's what people tend to vote on, is the state of the nation, the state of the economy. He has got to grab the initiative. I think this is the most important speech of his presidency. If he doesn't come out and articulate tonight a program that is substantive, that is understandable, and that's memorable, that is that people tomorrow will be able to remember what he said, I think he's going to be playing catch-up ball to the Democratic leadership and to the Democratic candidates all through the coming summer and into the election, and he is going to be really down when it comes that time.
Well, Jim, if you were writing this speech and if you were advising the president, what specifically would you have him do tonight?
I think he's got to have 5 points. He's got to do something about taxes. He's got some tax initiatives in there. I would do a few different things than what he has proposed, but he's got some good stuff in there. He's got to do something on spending. I don't think he's got very much there. The Democrats are going to do away with the budget agreement. I think, needs to take the initiative and say we need to freeze spending. On the regulatory side, he's got a moratorium there where during this 90-day period, he can sort of grab the regulators and say we're going to do things differently, tell Congress it's not going to be business as usual on the regulatory side. He needs to do something about the financial institutions. I know they hate the word forbearance, but that is something that needs to be done. You have a lot of people that have lines of credit that can't continue those lines of credit, and this is causing a great deal of disruption out there in the business community, people who make jobs and who expand the economy. And finally, he needs to do something about the money supply. Now, I know that the Federal Reserve is doing what it can, but the fact of the matter is that the money aggregates have not grown the way they should grow to enable the economy to expand. And as you know, even if you generated new growth in the money aggregates right now, that's not going to prop up the economy very much until several months out. So I don't think the situation is one in which we're going to see the economy bloom like we have in recessions in the past. We're going to see the economy gradually grow if they will adopt some of his measures.
Now, Jim, we have learned that the president's going to propose cutting the capital gains rate to 15% from 28%. The president's been beating this dead horse for quite a while now. Democrats aren't going to accept it. What good is it to just bring up an old issue like this again?
I think a president always has to say what really makes sense. If it's something that the Congress doesn't go along with, he's got to say it over and over again. There are some things that the Congress probably will go along with, like an investment tax credit. If he can make Congress combine this with a cut in the capital gains rate, I think we've made 2 steps in the direction of recovery.
How about the tax cut for the average guy? Where are we going? What would we get on that?
I think a cut in marginal tax rates across the board is what we need, not some targeted cut for the middle class. I just hate to see politicians playing one class against another, and I think that's what's happened here. And their Republicans and Democrats are equally guilty on this. I think we need to cut tax rates not because to stimulate aggregate demand or do something in a political year, but because it's going to increase aggregate supply.
Would knock 4 or 5 percentage points off every rate?
No, I would, if I were president, I would call for reducing the marginal rates on tax by 1%, knock 15 down to 14, knock 28 down to 27, and so forth.
All right. Jim Miller, thank you very much for joining us on Moneyline. And coming up next, a Moneyline special report, The New Economy, How Recession Reshapes American Industry.
I was 4 when my mother died. I was a young man when I found out what killed her, an illegal abortion. I'm a retired Marine, and I believe anti-choice politicians are threatening the freedoms I fought for. Women should have the right to choose whether or not to have an abortion. Remember, when abortion is illegal, women, like my mother, die.
The Supreme Court could take away your constitutional right to choose. Help the NARAL Foundation protect your right. Paid for by the NARAL Foundation.
They say diversify to reduce risk, but I'm no financial expert.
I know how to build a house, not a portfolio.
How do you judge each investment? When to buy or sell?
And who has time to follow the market?
Because most people can't be masters at everything, Fidelity Investments created the Fidelity Asset Manager. In one easy mutual fund, it seeks to diversify among and across stocks, bonds, and money markets. And Fidelity professionals carefully watch your investment for you, gradually adjusting your assets to keep pace with changes in the market.
It's designed for those of us who aren't financial experts.
Call now for this free fact kit on the Fidelity Asset Manager.
I called. You should too. There's no pressure to invest. There's no sales charge either. all your money works for you.
Diversification made simple. Call 1-800-654-1500 for your free fact kit. Fidelity Investments. Common sense, uncommon results. Share price, yield, and return will vary.
People, I am hungry for more computer teamwork.
Hungry? Here's Data General's Avion system. Mainframe power that fits in a pizza box.
Jenkins, I'm famished. Order us an AVR.
To profit from your computers, call 1-800-DATA-GEN.
NBA Tuesday on TNT. Mr. Robinson's neighborhood is expecting a visitor. Woo! Here comes Mr. Jordan. Bulls, Spurs, tonight at 8 on TNT. Bigger than Lott.
Recession is not the only cause of layoffs and plant closings. That pain also has come about because of a fundamental change in the way America does business. Some believe the end result will be for the better. Casey Wine concludes his report on an economy in transition.
It's not glamorous, but it's profitable. Precision Valve Corporation makes valves for aerosol cans. The New York company is prospering by selling overseas.
Our bag is, if we're not offering the best that there is, we shouldn't be there in the first place.
When Bob Aplenalp founded Precision Valve in the late 40s, 90% of his business was in the United States. Now he heads a $250 million a year enterprise, with most of its sales overseas. Precision Valve does business in more than 12 countries in Europe, Latin America, and Asia. More than 2/3 of its revenue is generated overseas. It's a clear example of how American companies can compete and succeed. The company uses lasers and computers to analyze valve spray patterns and is about to introduce a new assembly machine that's 30% faster than current models. Precision Valve pours 5 to 7% of its sales back into research, development, and new equipment.
The effort we make in terms of developing new products, new machinery, new equipment is absolutely what's kept us in the forefront of the business.
Precision Valve survived the 1970s ozone layer scare and eventual ban of aerosol chlorofluorocarbons by developing new products. Contrast that to the U.S. auto industry, which was slow to react to the Japanese fleet of fuel-efficient cars in the 70s and 80s. In fact, U.S. spending on research and development since the early 70s has lagged far behind Japan and Germany. Those nations now outspend the United States by 50%. They're also investing more in plants and equipment.
You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that if you're in competition with someone and he's investing twice as much as you are, you're going to lose. It's very hard to make high-quality products with worn-out tools.
During the 1960s and 70s, U.S. capital spending grew more than 50% each decade. During the 80s, it rose at less than half that rate. And by the end of the decade, there was almost no growth in capital spending. Since 1960, the American steel industry has lost hundreds of thousands of jobs and a big chunk of the global market. By 1990, the United States produced just 11.5% of the world's steel. In 1982, the United States controlled 57% of the world's semiconductor market. A decade later, less than 40%. Japan is now the world's leader. Meanwhile, the United States has invested heavily in defense production and technology. Military dominance at a price.
We in the United States, over a period of years, have designed and constructed the finest weapons of war in the world. We saw those splendid weapons operate in the Persian Gulf. But while our engineers and scientists have been constructing those, Japanese engineers and scientists and German engineers and scientists have been concentrating on consumer goods.
But the end of the Cold War has given the world's military leader an opportunity to cut defense spending and catch up on the economic front.
If we can balance the budget, free capital, provide incentives, we can see the economy take off and sustain recovery.
Sustaining growth in the export sector, which rebounded during the 80s, is also crucial to the recovery. But economists warn not to count on exports for too much too soon, because Europe and Japan are facing their own recessions. That's slowing demand for U.S. products. So the road to recovery begins at home.
It's a transition into a different kind of economy where smaller companies are going to be dominant, where more innovations are going to come from the smaller entrepreneurial businesses, where most of the new jobs are going to be created by the smaller high-tech kinds of companies.
Optimism about the economy is helping the stock market rally like it normally does coming out of a recession. But the rally may be suspect given the unique economic developments.
Happy days are here again, and everything's going to be fine, maybe sooner rather than later is the message of the stock market. And yet, you ask most consumers, how's things out there? And say, horrible. And so you got fear among consumers and euphoria among investors, and you say, well, what's going on?
What's going on is a fundamental transition from an economy of consumption to one of production. That process is often painful, but necessary for a healthier U.S. economy. Casey Wyan, CNN Business News, New York.
Two earnings blockbusters did the trick for the Dow today. The rest of the market pretty much flat, but the blue chips hit their 8th record this year. An earnings-driven surge in just two Dow stocks, Disney and Procter & Gamble, accounted for almost all of the rally. Bonds soared as well, helping the Dow jump 31.5 points. Our new record right now is 3,272.14. That's 8 points over the record set 10 days ago. Volume once again heavy at 217 million shares. Gaining issues, though, beat out losers by just a very few issues. New York Stock Exchange Composite Index shows that. It was up 1/100th of a point. Standard & Poor's 500 actually lost 3/100ths of a point. Dow Transport's unchanged today. Utilities gained 6/100ths of a point. Looking at other markets, the NASDAQ Composite Index up 0.29. Just a slim gain for smaller stocks. Turnover heavy, 231 million shares. Advancing issues, decliners almost exactly equal. The American Stock Exchange up by about 1/4 of a point. Trading heavy in the Amex, more than 19 million shares. Advancing issues beat out decliners slightly. Tonight's Moneyline movers, Walt Disney's soaring 9. Earnings were surprisingly strong despite a drop in theme park revenues. Analysts say when the economy recovers, those revenues will too. Procter & Gamble surging 5.5. Earnings there also unexpectedly high. A sign that the consumer products giant is on the mend from a disappointing 1991. Allied Signal also helping boost the Dow with a gain of 1 1/4. Its chairman expects to see better 1992 earnings thanks to cost cutting. Storage Technology leaping 9.5. It unveiled a computer storage device which it says could bring in $10 billion in revenue through this decade. Citicorp up by 1/2 to 15.5. Analysts say banks are attracting buying after a better than expected fourth quarter in that industry. Compaq Computer lost 2 3/8. Fourth quarter profits were half of year-ago levels. Among widely held stocks, American Express down 1/8. After the close, it reported a rise in fourth quarter earnings. Sears up 1/8. Analysts expect a rise in profits at its Allstate unit. Chrysler gained 1/8. It will cut purchases of Japanese steel by about 25% this year. Weyerhaeuser also up 1/8. Fourth quarter profits a bit better than expected. Con Ed was unchanged. Earnings fell in the last quarter of the year, but the utility raised its dividend. 10 weeks straight and still dropping. The AAA says gasoline prices fell this week for the 10th week in a row. Self-service unleaded down to $1.06.5 a gallon, the lowest level since July of 1990. Gasoline's price has fallen almost 8 cents a gallon over 2.5 months. Coming up next on Moneyline, there's an argument that escrow accounts should be next in line for a healthy dose of reform.
Which country in the world offers attractive investment opportunities? The answer is Pakistan. Which country offers the most ideal strategic location for your business activities? The answer is Pakistan. From where can you get fully developed infrastructure and abundant and competent manpower at reasonable wages? The answer is Pakistan. Which country offers import concessions on machinery and raw material and generous tax holiday? The answer is again Pakistan. Substantial deregulation of foreign investments, accelerated privatization of public enterprises. So this is Pakistan, and this is what it offers you generously. Come, see and invest in Pakistan, because the time is right. For further information, Pakistani Mission for the Ministry of Industries.
This woman makes a good income from her bank savings account. This woman makes a better income from her money market fund at Oldie Discount. If you'd like the money market fund that's ranked among the highest yielding in the country, call Oldie Discount. Our fund offers you a high yield, money market safety, and liquidity. For investments geared to give you maximum performance, call Oldie, America's full-service discount broker.
You, my friend, can use some fun. Big fun. Las Vegas, Atlantic City, cruise ships. But you gotta take this along, the Players Club card. It's gonna save you a lot of money. 25 to 50% off fabulous resort hotels, 25% off meals and drinks, up to 50% off shows and entertainment. Come on. Call Players Club for much more information free. You're too smart to pay full price.
New members get 2 free nights in Las Vegas or Atlantic City when the club books their flights. Call toll-free now.
On CNN tomorrow, what will you get out of the State of the Union proposals on Cryer and Company? Then on NewsHour, first it was books on tape, now you can bite into books on disc. All tomorrow on CNN.
The escrow account system used by most of the nation's mortgage lenders needs a major overhaul. That at least is the view of Myron Kandel, and he tells us how it should be cleaned up. Mike.
Bill, American homeowners are really at the mercy of mortgage lenders when it comes to those escrow accounts that pay real estate taxes and insurance premiums and other costs. Officials of 12 states say the mortgage lenders are systematically ripping off homeowners by charging them too much. Yesterday, GMAC Mortgage Corporation, a unit of General Motors, agreed to make $100 million in refunds and payment reductions to 380,000 homeowners in those 12 states. New York Attorney General Robert Abrams, who coordinated a lawsuit against the company, said GMAC overcharged 95% of the time. In the usual gobbledygook surrounding such cases, GMAC agreed to settle without admitting any wrongdoing. But it won't overcharge anymore, and it will pay the money. This crackdown should keep lenders all over the country more honest, but don't count on it. That's why I think there should be constant review of such accounts on a spot basis. And now that the message has really been sent, future violations should be prosecuted on a criminal basis. In addition, there's no reason why most such escrow accounts pay no interest. Sure, lenders deserve some compensation for handling the payments made out of such accounts, but zero interest is too high a price. Some reduction from money market rates would be fair. Lawmakers and law enforcement officials must make sure that sweeping reform of such abuses takes place. Unfortunately, the price of honesty must be constant vigilance. Bill?
One wonders sometimes, Mike, if the regulators just have too much on their plates these days.
Well, and the president wants to have a moratorium on that.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike. That's Moneyline for this Tuesday evening. Thank you for joining us. Tomorrow night, our guest will be Treasury Secretary Nicholas Brady, talking about the federal budget and the president's prescription to get the economy going. I'm Bill Hartley, sitting in for Lou Dobbs. Good night from New York. Crossfire is next, and here is Michael Kinsley with a look at what's ahead. Michael.
Bill, President Bush gives the speech of his life tonight. It's the State of the Union address in which he promises to supply his cure for what ails America. Bush's popularity has collapsed. He's counting on tonight's speech to start an election year reversal. The Crossfire pregame show will feature two great mouths of the South from the United States Senate, Fritz Hollings of South Carolina and Trent Lott of Mississippi. Join us in just a moment.
Coming up, Crossfire, followed by Prime News after this local commercial break here on CNN.
Here's who can. The Crescent Man can.
At Crescent, our people make the difference. Friendly professionals ready to help you find the right car, truck, or van at the right price and provide reliable, convenient service after the sale. Crescent Chevrolet Geo, downtown for 60 years.
Friendly Crescent
Direct from Broadway and the heart of rock and roll comes Buddy, the Buddy Holly story, the sensational hit musical that's raising the roof in London, Australia, and now in theaters across America. The star that had them cheering, the songs that had them bopping, the story that went down in history. Come down for the wildest night out since 1959.
Live at the Des Moines Civic Center for 3 performances only, February 4th through 6th. Call and charge your tickets today.
This is CNN.
From Washington, Crossfire. On the left, Mike Kinsley. On the right, Linda Chavez. Tonight, the big speech. In the Crossfire, 2 members of the Senate Budget Committee, Democratic Senator Fritz Hollings of South Carolina and Republican Senator Trent Lott of Mississippi.
Good evening. Welcome to Crossfire. 90 minutes from now at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, President George Bush will give what may be the most important speech of his life. His approval rating in one poll has plummeted from 88% less than a year ago to 43% today. As the economy stagnates, the president has been promising for months that tonight's State of the Union address will contain his cure for the nation's domestic ills. White House aides are calling it Operation Domestic Storm. Can any speech live up to this kind of advanced billing? Some details are already out. Bush will call for a variety of tax cuts and credits. He will announce further slashes in the Pentagon budget. He was to have announced a health care reform plan this week, but a dispute between White House officials and Republicans in Congress has sent that one back to the drawing boards. Linda Chavez is holding up the right wing tonight, but let me start by asking Senator Trent Lott a serious question. Senator, the most famous political speech of our lifetimes was John F. Kennedy's inaugural address. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Many people, and I'm one of them, think that this country's problems will never be solved until we have leaders who are willing to call for a certain amount of sacrifice by Americans for the good of their country. Will George Bush do that tonight, or will it be the usual bunch of tax cuts and party favors?
Well, you described what you think was the best speech of, this century. I think there'd be some debate about that. What you're saying is what we need is more taxes increased, and I think there are a whole lot of different answers to the problems we have. I think President Bush is going to do an excellent job tonight. I think he's going to lay out a good program. I think he's going to look like a leader. He's going to be tough, and it is going to be the beginning of some good things that he'll work with Congress on, and for a good year.
You know, you're really liveling me. I don't think we necessarily need a tax increase. My question to you is, can we get out of the problems we're in if nobody has to give up anything, if nobody has to do anything unpleasant, whether it's see their taxes go up or see their benefits decreased, whatever? And do you disagree? Is there a painless cure all around the corner?
No, I don't think there's a painless cure. I think we are going to have some cuts in spending, some control in spending. I hope we don't get into a bidding war on tax cuts. I think it needs to be targeted, limited, and quick.
Senator Hollings, this isn't just any State of the Union. This is an election year speech. And with any luck at all, George Bush is going to come out of tonight with the Republicans united behind him. You Democrats are all over the place. There are as many plans up there floating as there are Democratic leaders. How are you going to convince the American people that you have an alternative to George Bush?
Well, I've been working on one of those things, Linda, and you go right to the point. No one in his right mind is recommending any tax increase in the middle of this recession. On the contrary, we're going to have to pay for the deficit. The Democrats will be in lockstep with the Republicans on tax credits and the cutting of the defense budget and everything else of that kind. Wait a minute, let me get through. What they're not going to do is pay for it. Now, that's good. You're going to get the good news tonight, but tomorrow and the next day, you're going to see how they're going to eliminate Amtrak, how they're going to cut about $5 to $7 billion out of Medicare and everything else to pay for these things. My way of paying for it is a cut right across the board, 10% of the federal bureaucracy like we did under President Reagan, and then come with a freeze of the exact budget we passed just last November. If we do that, we can pick up $26 billion and pay for these things.
Senator Hollings, even if your plan went through, there are lots and lots of other plans out there, and you guys have not been able to get your act together, and yet you're saying that you've got the leadership to be able to lead this country.
Well, we got it. We got the leadership. We don't have control. The president's got control of the Congress. Let's get right on that. Not wait a second. I'm giving you the fact. We just passed an education bill that he filibustered for the last 90 days, and then we passed it 92 votes because he wanted to fit it into his speech tonight.
Of course, it only took a year to get that education bill or a modified version of what the president asked for a year ago.
And Senator Hollings, so you can't convince the American people, can you, that the Republicans have been in control of both houses of the Congress? Last time I checked, it was the Democrats.
Oh, no, they've got the leadership. They've got the majority. But any time as a president in the White House, you've got 1/3 plus 1, 34 of those sheep that follow you, like you just said a minute ago. They're going to be in lockstep, coming right in down behind the president. We did that with respect to the textile bill. We go right on down with the Chinese students. Every one of those things, he threatens a veto or he vetoes. There's not $1 spent in George Bush that he didn't sign. He hadn't vetoed any spending.
You know, Michael, there won't be a lot new in the plan tonight. What would be new is if Congress passes some of it.
Well, let me ask you about that very point. President Bush is apparently going to demand that Congress pass his budget by March 20th because
No, that's not what he's going to say.
Because things are so terribly urgent.
We have got to do something about economic growth, an economic growth package within a specified period of time, because the budget will take longer than that.
He's going to demand that Congress do X, Y, or Z by March 20th.
He's going to say, look, we have economic problems in this country. We need to do something about it quickly.
Let me ask my question?
Okay, good.
My question is this. If it's so urgent, what's he been diddling around for the past few months? How can he say, I'm not going to do anything till the State of the Union? He started saying that in October, November, December. January is practically over, and now he says, well, now, here's my plan, and it's very, very urgent. You better pass it right away and don't argue with me. I mean, isn't that ridiculous?
Let me ask you, do we have problems with the economy or not?
Of course we do.
If we wait till June or October, it may have already recovered by itself, and whatever we would do liable to be counterproductive. Having said that, I do think the president should have pushed harder for something last fall. But keep in mind, Congress can pass something anytime it wants to. He does not control the Congress. George Mitchell and Tom Foley did.
Something that I missed?
He proposed a lot of what he's going to be referring to tonight, last year, and the year before, in many instances.
But Senator,
crime, education, we can't even call up a bill, Mike. You know that. They filibustered, by gosh. We got the cable TV bill. I've been trying to get it out for 4 years. The White House has already threatened to veto. Again this afternoon, they're going to veto it. We can't even call up bills unless you get a cloture vote. And they cut off the debate. So they've got control, and they use it, and then they laugh at it.
I'm glad to know it.
Senator Hollings, nobody stopped you from sending a bill up to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The fact is you didn't send it up there.
What bill?
You did not send a bill.
Which bill are you talking about?
Any bill, any economic growth bill.
Oh, yeah.
You did not send an economic stimulus
Wait a minute.
bill.
The Republicans and Democrats got together on these last 3 summits. When the president first came in, he said, now this here measure, along with the Democrats, mind you, me, is going to reduce the deficit to $100 billion. It was $200. The next year, he said it's going to reduce it to 64. It went to 300. Last year, this time in February, less than a year ago, he says it's reducing the deficit $500 billion over 5 years. We increasing it $500 billion over 1 year. I can tell you right now. So that's Democrats and Republicans both on that summit.
I voted against that last budget summit.
Amen, brother.
We thought it was a mistake then.
That's right.
I still think it was.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Senator, if you were to take a poll of the economists right tonight, it would probably show that, in their view, the best thing to do about the immediate short-range problem of the recession is nothing. And there's a great danger that if you pass tax cuts, now, as pleasing as that might be, I could really ask either one of you this, it's really going to do harm to it's going to do the economy no good in the short run when you need the boost, and it will do harm in the long run by increasing the deficit. Now, what about that?
Well, these are the same economists that were telling us last fall, just stand pat, everything will be fine. I mean, you know,
so you're saying it doesn't matter how much we run up the deficit?
No, I think it does matter very much. And I think that this economic growth package should pay for itself, or we should use other ways to make sure it does not increase the deficit. I think it should be limited. I don't want us, there are a lot of things I'd like to do to make the tax code fairer, but I don't think we ought to do it in a quick way or in a way that would run up the deficit later on.
It's been 12 years. When are you going to, you guys have been controlling the tax agenda. When do we start making it fairer? We didn't do it in good time.
My view of fairer is different probably from what you would consider as fairer.
We're going to have to take a break there. And when we come back, we're going to ask our guests how the Democrats or the Republicans are going to pay for their middle-class promises.
Recently, DuPont announced that its energy unit Conoco would pioneer the use of new double-hold oil tankers in order to safeguard the environment. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. better things for better living.
How can you tell a raisin nut from an ordinary raisin? Raisin nuts shop in big and tall shops. They are frequently mistaken for dirigibles. And they have a heck of a time hiding behind trees. But the best way to spot a raisin nut is to taste one. Because when you take a fat, juicy raisin and roll it in a nutty coating, it keeps it plumper, makes it extra tasty. The toasted bran flakes and big crunchy almonds help too. For big-time raisin taste, it's Raisin Nut Bran.
Grapefruit juice refreshes. At the Ashby Inn, the secret of our chicken rice recipe is in the rich taste of our chicken stock.
Country Inn rice dishes made with hearty country ingredients and Uncle Ben's rice. Taste the country in Uncle Ben's Country Inn. Rice dishes inspired by the finest inns.
Tonight, a tax cut for the middle class, universal health care. What will President Bush offer the American public? And how will it affect his re-election? The State of the Union address tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern on CNN.
The American people are clamoring for action. They are tired of reading President Bush's lips. Lip service is all they've gotten out of Washington for too long.
Welcome back to Crossfire. We're talking about the State of the Union address, which the president will deliver in about an hour. He's been promising a major plan to revitalize the nation's economy and maybe his own political future as well. Joining us tonight are Republican Senator Trent Lott of Mississippi and Democratic Senator Fritz Hollings of South Carolina, both members of the Budget Committee. Senator Hollings, we've heard a lot about these middle-class promises. We're going to try and do something for the middle class, but somebody has to pay for it. Isn't it going to come out of the defense budget, and isn't that going to be jobs?
A lot of it's going to come out of the defense budget. All of these plans are going to take about $10 billion out. I don't believe in taking much more than that because they're leaving the camps and then they're going on to unemployment. We don't want to do that too precipitously, but $10 billion will come out of that. But then if you cut bureaucracy across the board and put on a freeze, take the same budget that the House and Senate passed just 3 months ago and the president just signed in December. That's a freeze of discretionary domestic spending. You can pick up $26 billion, give $19 billion to the president's tax cuts and our tax. We were both talking the same thing about capital gains and everything. Otherwise, put $7 billion into the public sector, namely revenue sharing. Come back in with Head Start, WIC, technology, research, development. That's what we need to do.
You're talking about an awfully lot of programs that don't go to middle class people. When you start talking about
all of America. Don't worry about middle class. Look here, this whole country is in a problem. Don't fall for that poster nonsense of middle class. We're trying to help the poor, the rich, the unemployed. How much are the unemployed going to get out of some of these tax cuts when they don't pay taxes?
The Democrats for years have had problems with talking about the middle class, but when it goes into passing programs, they pass programs for people who are not working and who are not paying taxes. And you've had a problem in that area.
Passing programs for poor people.
Poor people, heavens above, yeah.
Well, it has to come from somebody's pocket.
For years. We need to pay a little attention to middle income.
Well, I think neither party can be accused of ignoring the middle class this year. I think that was Linda's point. Let me ask you about health care. There was an interesting story in the paper today. The administration apparently was going to propose, in order to pay for some of its proposed programs to take care of people who don't have any health care, taxing the health care benefits of people making over $100,000 a year. This word of this got to Republicans in Congress, and they went and scared the administration out of it. Now, I ask you, Senator, how can you even begin to pay for what's really needed in this country if you're not prepared to do a little bit of that to people making over $100,000 a year?
I think there was a lot more involved than that. First of all, though, I think it is important that the president address this problem. Health care delivery cost and accessibility is a problem in this country. It's a concern we've got to deal with. And I think it's important in the State of the Union address he includes some thoughts on that. What has happened this time, more than usual, is the White House, the new chief of staff, the president has been consulting with members of Congress and listening to them, and there were some problems with the health care package. OMB was again trying to set policy in the budget, and that's not where health care policy needs to be addressed.
If I may summarize what the problem was that there was the slightest little tiniest hint of an answer to Linda's question, which is The benefits are very nice. How are we going to pay for them? And the problem was that the Republicans in Congress got scared of even trying to do that, for fear, I must say, that the Democrats would demagogue them on this.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, you can't have it both ways. I mean, we're going
I'm not
is that the
having it
right
both
way to
ways.
go? As a matter of fact, there was a lot more involved in it than that. And as for myself, I have no problem with that particular proposal.
Senator Hollings, isn't there some incentive for the Democrats to sit on their hands and let this president's plan just...
No, the people are not that stupid. What are you talking about? I'm a Democrat running for re-election. You think my people are going to allow me to sit on my hands? I've elected 5 times for doing what the people want. The people want, and Michael pointed that out, they want a sacrifice. They don't want a Santa Claus out of government.
With all due respect,
Senator. Look here, right now.
With all due respect, Senator, you guys sat on your hands all last fall, and nothing went up.
We didn't sit on our hands. We tried our best. We've been fighting for child care, for all of these clean air. We had to fight everywhere to get the civil rights bill.
You've not been fighting
Everything
for an
has been a
economic
fight.
stimulus
Unemployment
package.
compensation, economic stimulus. We got to pay some bills.
The Clean Air Act's going to add probably
The way you're going to pay some bills is get people back working and let them pay taxes.
President lobbied very hard for the Clean Air Act and told us it was a great triumph.
Yep, that's one of the things that got him in trouble, too.
What's his name again?
Yeah, that's one of the things that got him in trouble.
I just want to hear you tell me
the people
his
out
name.
there that having to pay for that didn't like what
What's the name of this president?
Well, it's President Bush. But that was a year ago. This is the next year.
That was
we're going
then,
to deal with the
this is now.
economy.
Senator Lott, I promised the producers I wouldn't dwell on the capital gains tax.
Okay, great.
But I got to ask you one question. The philosophy of the 1986 tax reform, which Ronald Reagan called one of his greatest triumphs, was get rid of the loopholes, get rid of the special treatment, level the rates, and let the free market work. Now, was Ronald Reagan wrong? Was the 1986 tax reform a mistake? Because this would essentially repeal one of the most important parts
I think
of it.
he was wrong to a large extent. And if I could take back one vote over the last 10 years, that would be probably one of the ones that I would consider. We made a lot of mistakes with that, including what we did with capital gains, including what we did to the real estate industry. Real estate industry is decimated. We're going to have to make some corrections in that tax provision this year if real estate and home building is going to lead us out of the problems we're in. So it was in my opinion, what I said at the time. We should have killed that snake before it got out of the hole.
Trent's right. I agree with him. Go right ahead.
Then change the subject.
But Senator Lott, before you take too much credit on Ronald Reagan for the 1986 tax bill, wasn't it Dan Rostenkowski's bill every bit as much as it was Ronald Reagan's bill?
Oh, good gosh, yeah. It was tax reform. Bradley Gephardt. It was
a great thing, too.
Yeah, the joint
So if there's blame to bear, then it has to go on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
All right, next subject. I think there's great credit for that bill. It was a wonderful thing.
That's what helped cause the problems we're in.
Let me ask you this, Senator. Is it legitimate at all, in your view, to ask why Mr. Bush, who has been president for the past 3 years, has not addressed this question of health care reform, which he is tonight going to tell us is so terribly urgent and pressing, until now?
Well, it's a growing problem. It is getting worse. It is a complicated problem. We need an across-the-board comprehensive plan, and I don't think anybody has the answers yet. The important thing is he is addressing it now. We all are. There are 30 different plans in the House of Representatives that have been introduced. We don't know exactly how to deal with this problem.
There are 30 plans, and virtually all of them are Democratic plans.
Well, there's at least 20 Republican plans, and I'm a co-sponsor of 2 plans.
Where's the president been if this is such an urgent, terrible problem?
Well, I don't know that we're going to get all the answers to it this year. We're going to begin to make some progress to try to make it more available to people that can't get coverage right now.
More progress by this year if the president had done something 2 years ago?
Well, you know, as a matter of fact, if the Congress had really dealt with education when they should have, with a national energy policy, with crime legislation, and an economic growth package last year, we might be able to really be focusing on
if the Congress had done every other thing that the president wanted them to do, he would have deigned to address the health care crisis, which he and everybody else is now saying is the most important problem we face, a little bit earlier. Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think he's saying it is the most important problem or the most difficult one. It may be the most difficult one, but there are a lot of other things we've got to address, like the economy first. That's number one.
How about trade, Mike? Gee, Manetti, that's where we exported all of our jobs. This nonsense you write about that free trade stuff. Come on, we are in a trade war. We're in the 4th quarter, and you got the president running around hollering free trade,
Senator Hollings, you and I will argue about that after the show. When we come back, though, we're going to ask both these guys, is anything going to happen this year, or is it just a bunch of talk from both sides of the aisle?
Hello, I'm Susan Rook. At the top of the hour, a last-minute preview on the President's State of the Union address. Bill Clinton on the campaign trail fielding questions beyond his position on the issues. And at the Mideast peace talks, the Palestinians don't even get to the corridor this time. Prime News is right after Crossfire.
from Hollywood Pictures.
We need help.
Don't you presume to tell me how to follow up. Sean Connery is a doctor determined to make a difference.
I found a cure for the plague of the 20th century, and now I've lost.
This is the cure for cancer.
Haven't you ever lost anything to pass your car keys?
On the trail of an amazing discovery, he found an explosive adventure. Medicine Man, rated PG-13. Starts Friday, February 7th at a theater near you.
Can you tell me where I can get cash with this?
Go down this way and you make a right.
Cash?
You know, the thing is, with that card, I don't know where. That's the problem.
Looking for cash without MasterCard isn't exactly easy.
And there's a corset store there. Now you go through that corset store, they don't mind.
But with MasterCard, you can get cash just about anywhere at nearly 200,000 bank branches and 60,000 ATMs. So count on MasterCard and master the moment.
Dirt Road.
Where we predict you'll have the best time every time. For a free vacation kit with valuable discounts, give us a call.
Senator Lott, we're going to hear a lot of words tonight from President Bush, and we'll be hearing a lot of words tonight in the subsequent days from the Democrats, too, about their promises, what they're going to do to fix the economy. Are we actually going to see something concrete happening in the next couple of months, or is George Bush just positioning himself to blame the Democrats when nothing happens?
Well, I think the president's going to hit just the right tone tonight, and I believe he will put pressure on the Congress to work with him to try to do something quickly on economic growth. And unlike a lot of other people, I think because it's an election year, we may actually address education, energy, and crime, and this could very well wind up being a better year than last year.
I got to ask Fritz Hollings the same question. Do Democrats really want to see something come out of this, or would they just assume not see any bill that President Bush could take credit for?
No, sir. Look at this. This is a real problem in a big country, and the people will see through that. They want the president. We only got one president. I wish he would submit a program for investment in the private sector like he's doing on some of these tax cuts to get business and industry going, but investment in the infrastructure on the public side and not run up the deficit. Now, he's going to do it all on the private side, none whatever to speak of on the public side, and he's just going to say, oh, you know, these projections and everything else of revenues. He's going to say we not pay for it.
Senator Hollings, you don't like what President Bush is about to offer. Do you
don't know.
do you think any of the Democrats are going to be able, any of the Democratic candidates who are running now are going to be able to offer a more comprehensive plan that's going to be more to your liking and, more importantly, the American people's liking?
I'm sorry, I just said I don't know, but I do think what we've heard about the investments in the private sector, business, they're looking now for investment and not consumption. They're not looking for politics as usual.
These are the Democratic candidates.
That's right. And the Democratic candidates are not looking for politics as usual. That's what we've had. Everybody get together and sweetheart deal or summit, run up the deficit, and just use it as campaign financing to re-elect each other. We need to do something for the people of America
Senator,
this time.
if you want to do something for the people of America, why haven't you thrown your hat in the ring?
Because I'm running for re-election in South Carolina.
Senator
Thank you for the question.
Last question. Did the Bush people make a strategic mistake in putting all their chips on this one speech tonight and creating these expectations, which will be very hard to meet?
Well, it's somewhat risky, but if you meet the expectations, if you rise to the challenge, it can be a tremendous success. He had this type of challenge at the Republican convention in 1988. He met it. I predict he'll do it again.
All right. I imagine you do. Thanks a lot, Senator Lott. Thank you, Senator Hollings. Linda and I will be back with a little bit of speech in just a moment.
In the early 90s, the real estate business changed.
I've got your financing seminar, 2 closings, and a showing.
Busy day.
Busy morning.
Professionals took control, trained to use the latest marketing tools, responsive to the real human issues.
He's not moving, but we've got a meeting set for tomorrow.
And one organization is setting the pace. Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. Join us. Call 1-800-ADVANCE.
Next time you need a hotel, think twice.
Embassy Suites.
2 big rooms. 1 big suite.
Embassy Suites.
A place to work. A place to play.
Embassy Suites.
Breakfast is free. Evening beverages too.
Embassy Suites.
Think twice. Twice the hotel. Call 1-800-EMBASSY.
Car and Driver magazine declared its road manners are in the import vein, but comfort is better. And if you're wondering what else they had to say about the new Oldsmobile 88 Royale, call 1-800-332-OLDS. We'll send you their complete test drive evaluation on video cassette, free. Because when Car and Driver says the new 88 has hit the elusive style mark, it deserves more of your time than we can give it here. Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering.
There's good news for those of you who've been staying up late to watch the late news. Headline News has the latest news, business, and sports around the clock.
For a transcript, send $3 to Crossfire Transcripts, Journal Graphics Incorporated, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203. Or call 303-831-9000.
Mike, as statesman-like as Fritz Hollings sounded, it is not in the Democrats' interest this year to be able to move any kind of a package forward. They would rather let the economy just stay in the toilet and hope that come the election they'll be able to get people to vote against George Bush.
I think that's very unfair. Obviously, the party in the opposition always has mixed feelings in their hearts, just as in 1980, the Republicans, were they rooting for more inflation and more recession and more joblessness back then? Would you have said that?
But, Mike, you're missing the point. They had their chance last fall. They didn't do anything. They're just as likely to sit on their hands through the spring and hope that the economy doesn't get any better.
I think, of course, the Democrats should have passed a bill to their liking and dumped it on Bush's desk and dared him to veto it. That would have been a great political strategy. They don't have their act together. I agree. But he would have vetoed it.
Well, the fact is that they have not been able to put their act together. Not one of those nominees has been able to present any kind of comprehensive plan.
The nominees are not sitting in the White House, and their plans are great. You can check them out in the library, as Bill Clinton says. From the left, I'm Mike Kinsley. Good night for Crossfire.
From the right, I'm Linda Chavez. Join us tomorrow for another edition of Crossfire.
The big speech is in an hour, and if you just stay tuned to CNN, you can enjoy prime news in the meanwhile. Let's find out from Bernard Shaw what's in the headlines. Bernie?
Thank you, Michael. Our coverage of the State of the Union address begins with a preview live from the White House, and we'll learn what Americans hope to hear from Mr. Bush. Broaden talks on Middle East problems, snag on delegate disputes, and Governor Bill Clinton refocuses on presidential politics. Prime News is next.
Coming up, Prime News, followed by Larry King Live after a word from your local cable system here on CNN.
I bought a new Pontiac Bonneville because I saved over $3,000. Compare Pontiac's low 2.9 APR to a conventional finance rate, and you'll save money, just like me. I was excited about Bonneville's great styling and features, and even more excited about saving over $3,000. Hurry, if you don't buy a Bonneville before February 4th, these savings will disappear.
See your Golden Circle Pontiac dealer.
In 1957, America was on the move, searching for success, for the American dream, for a great-tasting cheeseburger. And we found it at Country Kitchen.
Oh, baby, not the hair.
A lot has changed since then.
Come in for our winter white sale. We've got lots of good food at low white sale prices, like cake and eggs, only $1.99.
Some things, however, will never change.
Yesterday and today, Country Kitchen.
Here are 3 reasons why you should advertise your product on cable television in Des Moines. Number 1, you'll reach your customers if they're men, women, or children. Number 2, you can buy television commercials on any of 16 Heritage Cablevision channels. Number 3, and best of all, a 30-second commercial costs as little as $35. Call Heritage Advertising Sales today. Cable television advertising. It's affordable and it's effective.
Home Shopping Club, where celebrities feel right at home.
I'm Beverly Sassoon. Enjoy fresh, healthy skin with my collagen skincare system, only on Home Shopping Club.
I'm Jack LaLanne. Increase your energy and stamina with Fit Over 50, only on Home Shopping Club.
Hi, I'm Brenda Dycraft. Bring out the champion within you with my complete line of fitness products only on Home Shopping Club.
Home Shopping Club, great bargains guaranteed.